Tim Cullens, Dingle's retired police chief, is an amateur archaeologist who takes my tour groups around when they're in town. Today, his group is really small, just me and Andy. On this trip around the peninsula, Andy's learning some history the way I like to, from a local. Dingle Peninsula is like an open-air museum. It's dotted with more than 2,000 monuments dating back to 4000 BC. Some of Ireland's ancient and complex history can be sorted out by visiting these sites.
This is actually known as Dunbeg Promontory Fort. It's one of about 2,200 archaeological monuments we have on the Dingle Peninsula. This site was built by the early settlers about 500 BC, that is the date for it. It has been excavated about 25 years ago because half it has actually fallen into the sea due to coastal erosion. I suppose there's no part of Ireland that has got so many archaeological monuments intact as you have got in the Dingle Peninsula. And primarily that's due to the fact that this area has never been industrialized, thankfully so far.
This remote peninsula was also busy during early Christian times. The Gallerus Oratory was a church built without mortar about 1,200 years ago. Shaped like an upturned boat, its finely fitted walls, stone without mortar, still keep out the rain. In the depths of the Dark Ages, monks fled the chaos of continental Europe. They sailed to the far fringes of the known world, settling in places like this, Dingle Peninsula. Living in monastic communities of stone igloo-type huts, they kept literacy alive for Western civilization. In fact, Charlemagne, who ruled much of Europe in the year 800, imported monks from Ireland to be his scribes.
This was a typical layout of these early Christian monasteries, several stone-type igloos and a church within a fortified wall. The inner wall divided the community into two sections, one for work and one for worship. This monument now actually is 1,000 years older than what we've been already looking at. A slab cross erected by the Celts about 500 years BC, red sandstone, and they decorated this stone with these Celtic motifs, or these concentric circles which run through the front of the stone, and that remained until the 6th century AD when the Christians came and Christianized the cross by superimposing this Greek cross on the upper part of the old Celtic monument, thus displaying the two traditions on the one slab cross, the Celtic and the Christian.
When the English came in the 12th century, they replaced the old monastic settlements, like the one we just saw, with their own churches in an attempt to centralize their control. During that era, this ruined church was a center of worship for the peninsula. And here on Dingle Peninsula, the soil itself reveals the struggles of the Irish people.
Now, in prehistory, the soil here was worthless, very barren. This soil here we're looking at was actually made by the hard work and endeavours of the peasants that actually had to reclaim this barren land by going to the beach and drawing up seaweed and sand to augment the very barren soil that was there to grow their potatoes and their crops.
So there's seaweed and sand?
Seaweed and sand mixture and some peat, which has developed into a clay over the centuries.
Patch by patch, they created fertile fields for potatoes, climbing ever higher up the hillside. In 1845, they planted. But a blight swept across Ireland and nothing grew. The potatoes rotted in the ground. For the next 4 years, Ireland starved. The village of Dunquin, with its many abandoned homes, is a reminder that Ireland's population was decimated by the Great Potato Famine.